Beamy, 28 years old, work as a certified high-voltage electrician. Make six figures but look like I make minimum wage most days because of the work clothes. Hands are permanently stained with a mix of grease, copper dust, and hard work. Drive a beat-up truck because I refuse to pay a monthly note on something that gets scratched at job sites. Grew up in a neighborhood where the only safety net you had was the people living next door. This story is a confession. It is an admission that I almost threw away the only things that actually matter because I wanted to feel sophisticated. I let a woman with a master's degree in sociology and a six-figure corporate HR job convince me that loyalty was a character flaw. Let's call her Sienna. Met Sienna at a coffee shop where I was doing some rewiring work for the owner. She was sitting there with a laptop that cost more than my first car. She looked like the type of woman who has never had to check her bank balance before buying groceries. Beautiful in that sharp, curated way where every strand of hair is intentional. We started talking because I accidentally tripped the breaker for her section while testing a circuit. She looked up, annoyed at first, but then she saw me. I am a tall male, broad shoulders from pulling cable, decent jawline. She seemed fascinated by the blue-collar aesthetic. Asked me about my job like she was interviewing a rare species for a documentary. We exchanged numbers. I thought she was out of my league. She thought I was a project. Fast forward 3 months, we are officially dating. Sienna works as a director of cultural equity for a mid-sized tech firm downtown. Her job description involves telling people how to speak, think, and interact to minimize friction. She makes good money. She lives in a luxury apartment complex with a concierge and a rooftop pool. I spend half my week at her place. At first, it was great. She liked the contrast between us. She liked showing me off to her friends at wine bars. I was the authentic boyfriend. The one who could fix things and didn't work in marketing. But slowly, the novelty began to wear off. She started making comments about my clothes. Do you have to wear those boots to dinner? Maybe we can go shopping for something less. Industrial, I laughed it off because I thought she just wanted me to look nice. I didn't realize she was trying to sand down my edges. Enter my friends. The toxic influence she eventually decided needed to be cut out. Let's call them Darius, Jensen, and Vince. I have known these guys since middle school. We grew up in the same block of council housing. Darius is a mechanic, big guy, loud laugh, heart of gold, but zero filter. Jensen works logistics, drives trucks, quiet, sharp as a tack with numbers, but doesn't talk much. Vince is the wild card, works odd jobs, landscaping, bouncing, but he would take a bullet for any of us. We are a unit. We survived poverty, bad neighborhoods, and family tragedies together. We pool our money when one of us is short. We spend our weekends fixing up Jensen's grandmother's house or working on cars. Sienna met them for the first time at a barbecue I hosted at my small rental house. I could tell immediately she was uncomfortable. Darius made a joke about a politician she liked. It wasn't even a mean joke, just a working-class observation about taxes. Sienna stiffened. She started using words they didn't understand. Intersectionality, systemic centering, microaggression. The guys just nodded and drank their beer. They respected her because she was my girl, but she did not respect them. That night, after everyone left, the lecture began. Kieran, I don't think those men are good for your growth. I was washing dishes, tired from the grill. What do you mean they're my brothers? They are stuck, she said, leaning against the counter with a glass of organic red wine. They reinforce negative stereotypes. Darius is loud and aggressive. Vince seems unstable, and Jensen. He just doesn't seem to have any ambition. I tried to explain that Jensen was actually saving to buy his own rig, that Darius ran a shop that employed 3 local kids. She waved it away. It's the energy, Kieran. It's toxic masculinity. They bond over trauma and outdated values. If you want to ascend to the next level of your life, you need to curate your circle. I didn't say much then. I didn't want to fight. But that word stuck with me. Curate. like my friends were furniture in a catalog that didn't match the rug. Over the next 6 months, the pressure escalated. Sienna got promoted at work. She was now in charge of hiring policies and internal conduct for her company. She became obsessed with power dynamics. She brought that energy home. She started correcting my language. If I said a job was crazy, she would lecture me on ableist language. If I said I was tired from busting my back, she would tell me I was glorifying exploitation. It was exhausting, but I loved her, or I thought I did. She was smart, successful, and she told me she saw potential in me. You could start your own consulting firm, she said. You know the industry, stop doing the grunt work, wear a suit. Manage people, she wanted me to be a white-collar version of myself. Meanwhile, the guys and I were actually working on a plan. A real plan. Darius had found a distressed commercial property, an old warehouse on the edge of town. We wanted to buy it together. Darius would put his mechanic shop in the back. I would use the middle for electrical fabrication and storage. Jensen would use the lot for his truck parking. And Vince would manage the property and handle the landscaping business he was starting. It was our dream, ownership, equity, not the corporate buzzword kind, but real equity, dirt and brick equity. I didn't tell Sienna about it yet. I knew she would hate it. She would see it as me anchoring myself to the lower class. She would see it as me tying my finances to unreliable people. One Friday evening, Sienna told me we were going to a dinner party. Hosted by her boss, a female executive named Alina. Alina was Sienna's idol, rich, powerful, ruthless, but draped in the language of compassion and progress. This is a big night for me, Kieran, Sienna said as she adjusted my tie. She had bought me a suit I didn't like. It was slim fit, European style. I felt like a sausage in a casing. Alina is considering me for a massive project. If I get this, I get a substantial raise and a seat at the board meetings. I need you to be perfect. I'm always me, I said. She frowned. Be the best version of you, the version that fits in. We arrived at Alina's house. It was a mansion in the hills. Glass walls, modern art that looked like scribbles, waiters passing tiny food. The people there were all the same. Soft hands, expensive glasses, voices that never raised above a polite hum. They talked about the economy like it was a weather pattern they watched from a safe distance. I stood by the bar, nursing a whiskey. Sienna was working the room. She looked radiant. I felt proud of her in a way. She knew how to play this game. Then the conversation shifted. We were seated at a long table. Alina sat at the head. Sienna was on her right. I was next to Sienna. Alina turned her attention to me. So Kieran, Sienna tells me you work in energy. I'm an electrician, I said clearly. A few people chuckled politely as if I had made a self-deprecating joke. He's a specialist, Sienna cut in quickly. He manages high-voltage infrastructure projects. It wasn't a lie, but it was a spin. Alina smiled, a tight, predatory smile. Fascinating, it is so important to have tangible skills. Tell me, what do you think of the current labor market? We find it so hard to find reliable employees who align with our values. I should have kept my mouth shut, but I thought of my apprentices. I thought of the guys. Well, I said, most guys I know just want to be paid on time and respected for the work they do. They don't care much about corporate values. They care about safety and feeding their families. The table went quiet. Sienna stiffened beside me. Her hand gripped my thigh under the table, nails digging in. Alina laughed, a dry sound. Refreshingly direct, but surely you understand that the workplace is a community we can't just have. Mercenaries, if a man is selling his labor to buy food, he is a mercenary by definition, I said. Loyalty is earned, not mandated by a handbook. Sienna's face was pale. She steered the conversation away instantly. But the damage was done. On the ride home, the silence was deafening. We got into her apartment. She threw her purse on the couch and turned on me. How could you? She hissed. I told you tonight was important. I just answered her question. You embarrassed me. You sounded like one of your friends, like Darius. She spat the name out like a curse word. Don't bring him into this, I warned. My patience was thinning. I have to bring him into this, because he is the anchor around your neck, Kieran. You cling to this working-class identity like a security blanket. You are smart, you are capable, but you surround yourself with losers. Watch your mouth, I said, my voice dropping an octave. Those losers would help you change a tire in the rain. Those people at that party would walk over your dying body to get to the hors d'oeuvres. She laughed, a cruel, mocking sound. Is that what you think? You think because they know how to use a wrench, they are better people. They are toxic, Kieran. They are misogynistic, narrow-minded, and they are holding you back. I have been patient, but I can't do this anymore. I can't build a future with a man who prefers the company of failures. Then came the ultimatum. She crossed her arms, standing in her designer dress in her designer living room. It's time to choose. I am looking at booking a summer house in the vineyard for us next month. But I am not going if you are still spending your weekends drinking cheap beer in a garage with them. You need to cut them off. No more fixing cars. No more lending them money. No more boys' nights. You tell them you have outgrown them. Or you walk out that door and we are done. I looked at her, really looked at her. I saw the fear behind the arrogance. She needed to control me because she couldn't control the world. She needed me to be a polished accessory because she felt insecure about her own standing. But she had crossed a line. She had asked me to betray the people who had been my family when I had none. I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. The clarity was absolute. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the key to her apartment. I placed it gently on the glass coffee table. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice faltering slightly. "I'm choosing," I said. "You're right, Sienna, I don't fit in your world, and I don't want to. My friends aren't toxic, they are real. And I would rather freeze in a garage with them than sip wine with people who despise me." I turned to the door. "Kieran, stop," she demanded. "This is a manipulation tactic. You are gaslighting me." "No," I said. "I'm leaving." I walked out. I drove my beat-up truck to Darius's place. It was 11 p.m. Lights were on in the garage. Darius, Jensen, and Vince were there. They were looking at blueprints for the warehouse. They looked up when I walked in. I was still wearing the stupid suit. I looked like a wreck. Darius didn't ask a single question. He just handed me a beer. "Rough night?" Vince asked. "The roughest," I said, "but I'm free." I slept on Darius's couch that night. The next morning I texted Sienna. "I will come by to get my tools and clothes on Saturday when you are at yoga. Please leave the door unlocked." She didn't reply. Saturday came. I brought Jensen with me to help carry boxes. We walked into the apartment. Sienna was there. She hadn't gone to yoga. She was sitting at the kitchen table looking at a stack of papers. She looked tired. When she saw Jensen, her eyes narrowed. "You brought him here. He's helping me move," I said. "We'll be quick." We started packing. Mostly work clothes, my tool chest, some books. Sienna stood in the doorway of the bedroom watching us. "You're making a huge mistake," she said. "You're throwing away a life of comfort for this." She gestured vaguely at Jensen, who was silently folding my heavy canvas jackets. Jensen looked up. "Ma'am," he said respectfully, "comfort is nice, but respect is better," she scoffed. We finished packing. As I was lifting the last box, Sienna's phone rang. She ignored it, then it rang again. She picked it up, annoyed. "Hello, yes, this is she." Her face changed. The color drained out of it completely. She sat down heavily on the edge of the bed. "What do you mean effective immediately?" "But the project, I don't understand." Silence. "Laid off," but Alina said. She listened for another 10 seconds, then the line went dead. She lowered the phone, her hand trembling. I stood there, box in hand. I could have just walked out, but I'm not a monster. "What happened?" I asked. She looked up at me, eyes wide with panic. "They fired me. Alina fired me, restructuring. They are cutting the entire cultural equity department." She said it was economic headwinds. She said my position was non-essential. The irony hung in the air like smoke. The woman who preached about essential values was deemed non-essential by the very idol she worshipped. Then the panic set in, real, visceral panic. She looked around the luxury apartment. Kieran, the rent. My lease is up for renewal next month. I can't. I don't have the savings. I spent it on the car, the trips, on us. She hadn't spent it on us. She had spent it on the image of us. I need you to stay, she said, her voice cracking. Just for a few months until I find something else. We can work this out. I forgive you for the outburst. Just, please don't leave me alone with this. She was freezing. The Ice Queen was melting into a puddle of economic reality. She realized suddenly that her power was theoretical. Mine was practical. I made money every time I turned a screwdriver. She made money only when the corporate machine felt generous enough to fund her ideology. I looked at Jensen. He was waiting by the door, holding the doorstop with his foot. He didn't say a word, he didn't gloat, he just waited for his brother. I looked back at Sienna. I felt pity, but not the urge to save her. She had made it clear that my world was beneath her. Now she wanted my world to subsidize hers. I can't stay, Sienna, I said gently. You told me to curate my circle. You told me to cut off the people who hold me back. I'm taking your advice. Kieran, please, what am I going to do? You have a master's degree, I said, and you have a lot of friends in high places. Call Alina, ask her for loyalty, see if she gives it to you. I walked out. Jensen followed me. We got into the truck. I didn't look back at the window. We drove to the warehouse. Darius and Vince were there with a realtor. We signed the papers that afternoon. It took every dime I had saved, plus everything the guys had. It was a massive risk, but it was ours. 6 months passed. Sienna tried to call me a few times, long, rambling voicemails, first angry, then apologetic, then desperate. She had to move out of the apartment. I heard from a mutual acquaintance she had moved back in with her parents in the suburbs. She was writing a blog about toxic workplace betrayal. Meanwhile, we were grinding. The warehouse was a mess. We spent every night after our day jobs fixing it up. I rewired the whole place. Darius installed the lifts. Jensen built the office. Vince landscaped the front so it looked professional. We opened Brothers Industrial Solutions. It was a catch-all name for what we did: fleet maintenance, fabrication, specialized electrical, and logistics. Word got around, people like hiring guys who actually do the work. We weren't polished. We didn't have a director of culture, but we showed up on time and we fixed the problem. One Tuesday, about a year after the breakup, I was in the front office. I was looking over invoices. Business was booming. We had just hired 2 more guys. The door chime rang. I looked up. It was Sienna. She looked different, less polished, wearing jeans and a simple sweater. She looked humble, maybe for the first time in her life. She held a folder in her hands. Kieran, she said. Sienna, I nodded. You look good, she said, looking around the clean, renovated office. I heard you guys bought this place. It's impressive. Thanks, it was a lot of work. She shifted uncomfortably. I'm working for a temp agency now, she said. Admin stuff, it pays the bills, barely. I didn't say anything, I just waited. I wanted to give you this, she said. She slid the folder across the desk. It's the money for the suit. And the trip to the vineyard I booked that we never took. I managed to get a refund on the flight, but I owed you for the deposit. I looked at the check. It wasn't a lot of money, but for her, right now, it was probably everything. I don't need this, Sienna. Take it, she insisted. Please, I need to clear the slate. I took the check. Okay, thank you, she hesitated. I was wrong, Kieran, about your friends, about everything. I thought I was teaching you how to be a man, but I was just trying to turn you into a pet. When things got hard for me, nobody from my world was there. Alina blocked my number. My network evaporated, but you. You built this with the people I told you to throw away. Tears welled up in her eyes. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. I see what loyalty actually looks like, and I regret losing it every single day. She turned to leave. She didn't ask to get back together. She knew that ship had sailed. She just wanted to confess. As she reached the door, Darius walked in from the shop floor. He was covered in grease, holding a wrench the size of a baseball bat. He stopped when he saw her. Sienna froze. She looked terrified that he would mock her, that he would rub it in. Darius looked at her, then at me. He saw the tears in her eyes, he saw the check on my desk. He didn't smile, but he didn't scowl either, he just nodded at her. "Ma'am," he said, tipping his head slightly. Sienna let out a small sob, nodded back, and hurried out the door to her car, a 10-year-old sedan that needed a muffler. Darius walked over to my desk. "That the ex?" "Yeah, she looks like she's been through the ringer." "She has." Darius looked out the window as she drove away. "Life's a hell of a teacher when you finally start paying attention," he muttered. He tapped the desk with his wrench. "Come on, generator went down in the South Bay. Client is panicking. Jensen is already warming up the truck." I stood up. I grabbed my tool belt. I looked at the check one last time, then tossed it in the drawer. I walked out of the office and into the shop. The sound of air compressors and impact guns filled the air. It was loud. It was dirty. It smelled like oil and ozone. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever heard. I hopped into the passenger seat of the truck next to Jensen. Vince jumped in the back. Darius took the wheel. "We good?" Darius asked. "We're good," I said. We drove out of the lot, four brothers against the world. I didn't have a director of cultural equity. I didn't have a wine cellar, but I had a business. I had my dignity. And I had the kind of friends who would help me bury a body, but loved me enough to make sure I never had to. I checked my phone, one unread message from Sienna. "You were right, loyalty is everything." I deleted the message. Put the phone in my pocket and got back to work. Be safe out there, boys, and never let anyone tell you that your brothers are baggage. They are the parachute.